nothing available for sale. So thanks to Nico. Then, of course, we've also had Tanya Visser got involved by sending all the back copies of the Gardener magazine, which I hope you guys have chosen. And, I didn't mention Carrie Goodman as well. She's also on the SANA, South African Nursery Association Committee. Okay. Terry Moller is an old name that you've known. I won't say old name. Sorry. Apologies. But she's been around for ages. You know, she started Lifestyle Garden School, the landscaping school. She was very much involved in garden worlds, garden shows. She's an author. She still trots around the countryside giving talks. So she's here as well. I'm quite sad that I invited Kay Montgomery. You might know that name, but she just wasn't well enough to be here today, sadly. But after all that, the star of the show. Is Leon. I don't think I really need to tell you that he was bred to be this kind of star. He can't take all the credit because his grandfather started being the curator of the Betty Bay Nature Reserve. Botanical Gardens, excuse me. His dad was very involved, am I correct, in Lowveld Botanical Garden. His mom and his sister, who I like very much, have a wholesale nursery in Nelspruit. So, we'll just, he's got green blood, what can I say? So Leon, thanks very much for coming.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. It was quite a surprise when the Uber dropped me next to the big road, and saw all the queue of people standing early in the morning to come and listen to a little bit of flower talk. That's very special. Thank you so much for that. I almost thought it wouldn't happen because this morning I was leaving Franschhoek, and very, very vroeg. And it is raining and it's stormy there at the moment, and the flight was delayed by an hour. And I just thought, maybe put my phone on silent, because I'm sure I'm going to get a Shelly call right now. Any case, I can't believe I made it in time. Dankie vir julle trein. And today I want to chat to you a little bit about Chelsea 2025. I can't believe it's also been a year since I've been here chatting about the first one we did, and now it's a year later. A lot has happened in that year, and the design was also a little bit more challenging this year than last year. But before I start with that, there's a few little things I just want to say. That looking at some of the faces here, it's a bit of deja vu. Some of you I remember, some of you I recognize at other shows from way back. And there is one very special one, and that is Terry here in the front. So she, how can I say, managed, curated, did the flower show at Garden World all those many years ago, and that was my first flower installation and my first show. So it all started with Terry, and that was really very, very special. And so the journey started from the foundation that she put down for me, and I followed that footpath. So, Chelsea 2025. So this year my inspiration, it's sometimes a little bit tricky to get inspiration for it. You can make a nice design, but the design also needs a story to tell. And it's one of biodiversity in South Africa and our fynbos, and not only fynbos, but also try and bring some other plants into the equation as well, which is sometimes a little bit tricky, as you know, driving down New Santon Drive, seeing all the breinplante. Nothing is in flower except a few aloes at the moment. So I always struggle with the northern parts of South Africa. So it's a little bit tricky. But this year I decided I'm going to do my huiswerk a little bit beforehand, and I contacted a lot of people in Europe, even in Japan, Portugal, and say, what can you give me that's very South African and a little bit to the north of South Africa? Forget the fynbos for now. And I got a lot of replies, a lot of very expensive quotations. But I managed to find a few things, which I think was very special. And it's the first time we've ever had them at the Chelsea Flower Show. Now, South Africa is very unique in many ways. People, landscape, cities, languages, all of those things. But we have two oceans colliding together. And the warm Indian Ocean and the cold Atlantic Ocean. And those two meet there in the southern point of Africa. And the two talking together with all of these tall mountains that we have in the Cape and the Drakensberg, they create all of these little microclimates everywhere around our country. And that gives way to our enormous biodiversity that we have here. No matter where you go, there's something different. Unlike Europe or big parts of other countries where you drive for hundreds of kilometers, and imagine Australia, hundreds of kilometers and you see the same cow every 100. Whereas us, you can get out of the road literally on the verge and you'll see a new little bulb or a new little species that you haven't seen anywhere else, and it might be even a very rare one. And that makes us very special, and I think that's where horticulturists all around the world flock to this country to come and see. But I'm not there for the horticulturists. I want to inspire all of the Northern Hemisphere green tourists to come to South Africa and to come and visit our Namaqualand, our fynbos biomes, and then also come here to the Drakensberg or around Gauteng and Mpumalanga. We have so many to give. So, that is what makes it also very interesting, is our summer rainfall and winter rainfall. So if I get a little bit bored in the winter and the Proteas is nou genoeg and the rain is starting to stop, I can always have a 2-hour flight up north. Here today, klim in die trein, hierso is ek, and I see all new different flowers. A whole new world that opens for you. And so that is also a part of my thinking in creating the design for this year's garden. Now, the Atlantic Ocean is the cold ocean. Most of the plants are more dependent on mist than rain. And that's what's happening this morning over there. And it's usually smaller plants, like your bulbs, very famous for bulbs, the annuals, and then also some other interesting succulents. But the succulents I always keep aside, because the succulents was this year going to the Babylonstoren stand, which was outside. So I gave them their little space there. And I concentrated on the blomme. And then one of my most favorite places to go to is the Storms River mouth. Then the garden route. Now the garden route is one of the most stable climates in the world, only second to Hawaii. The fluctuations there is minimal, and that's why we have these giant plants that grow there. But when I walked over that little hanging bridge at Storms River mouth, I looked into that kloof that goes in. I saw this dark, ominous water. It's almost black. Into these cliffs on the sides, and on those cliffs, which look so hostile, there's little Streptocarpus, there's Agapanthus, there's Tulbachia. There's all of these interesting plants that's used all over the world at any garden center you can go to, but it originates there, nowhere else. And I want people to see that, not only people abroad, but South Africans too. So that little piece there, hanging on that little bridge, was my main focus for this garden. Now there's the Streptocarpus. Now I've never used Streptocarpus at Chelsea before, but when I saw this, it was one of my favorite little things. I grew up in Mpumalanga, and there we are, that's the kingdom of Streptocarpus, all the different colors and sizes. But Western Cape, we're a little bit unlucky, we have one species. And it starts there at this gorge, and that's the little guy there. Only 1 or 2 flowers on a plant, but that was one of the plants that was used by Dibblies and those big nurseries to create the beautiful shapes, the larger shape of the flowers that we see today in the nurseries. As I said before, cliff-dwelling plants, we have fantastic things, so I'm going to try and find some there in London, and then we have the water. Now I said there's that dark water going into that kloof in Storms River, but if you go and hike now, especially now in the Cape, wherever you hike, the little streams that are there, they have that beautiful amber color, that whiskey water. That is so beautiful. All the tourists, like Americans, refuse to drink it, but let me tell you, that's the fountain of youth. It tastes beautiful. It has that gorgeous, gorgeous color. So in the back of my mind, that is always there. How am I going to create that at the Chelsea Flower Show in an organic way? Now, we start our first drawing, again, about a year ago. My drawing has to be in about 3 weeks for next year. And this is the later drawing. The first drawing is really a doodle. It is just a rough sketch to tell the RHS what's going to happen here, and here. And they go through it, and they decide, okay, you can't do this because of, say, wheelchair access. Or it's usually health and safety related. But then after that's been approved, then we start the sketching. And this is Tristan doing the sketching there in the office. And it takes a long time. It takes about 2 weeks for him to paint it. And we go meticulously, what flower is going to be next to this one? And that's what's nice about painting it and sketching it out, because then that little design becomes alive in your head. And I always say, when you do it on computer, it's really nice, but you can still watch Golden Girls on TV while you're doing that. It's very easy to copy and paste and fill a gap, not with painting. And that was the design that we sent in the final one. Now, there's our mountain. The mountain is going to have a lot of fynbos, lots of protea, because that's in flower now. That will last the period of time that I need the flowers to last for the show. But then we're going to have this big canyon that cuts through this mountain. And in that canyon, that's the Storms of a Mouth idea. So we have a beach on this side and a beach on that corner. The Atlantic Ocean, the colder colors to portray that. And on the other side, the Indian Ocean with warmer colors, yellows, oranges, reds, to give that illusion of warmth. And then we'll have all the cliff-dwelling plants. We have 8 waterfalls in this garden. And if you go and hike in the Cape now, everywhere you walk, each and every rock has a drip. There's a little drip. I want to go a little bit louder than a drip. But we have to be careful with water. Water is that's why we hardly ever use it at the Chelsea Flower Show, because it's so risky. Now, at the Chelsea Flower Show, if your water feature leaks or there's a big problem, then you're disqualified. So it's a very risky endeavor to do. And remember, we have a very limited time to do that. And we have 8 waterfalls to go in there. So we did the whole launch. This was held in Cape Town, because now we also need some geldjies. It's quite expensive. And with the politics around the world this year, the rand just jumped like a kangaroo up and down. So we never know how much we need it. But this is where the story started in that. But this year, I must say, we were very, very lucky that Grootbos was still on board. Southern Sun came on board for us to help us. And then our biggest sponsor this year was Harsendal Wine Farm. Now, I don't know if any of you came to look at my garden installation at Harsendal. It was called Between Two Worlds. That literally ended the day when I flew to London to do this show. And that was a fantasy garden that we did in Singapore. Ek weet, dit is 'n bietjie ver vir julle. Maar I'll try to do one in Joburg. Shelley knows how to crowdfund. So, the big journey starts in finding flowers. Now, it seems easier than it actually is. We had a very strange little summer in the Cape. Summer, it was not as hot. It was a little bit cooler, which was wonderful for me and my skin, but it was not so great for the protea growers because their flower buds were late. So that forced me to go and visit most of the farms that I'm usually comfortable with just doing over the phone, just to go and see how far those buds are. Remember, with buds, it's very pretty, but I want the flower buds to just crack open, because I have 3 days at the Chelsea Flower Show from a crack to an open flower. But it's important, because if they're open, they will get damaged, and that we don't want. And we have to have a permit for each and every flower that goes to the Chelsea Flower Show. For an open flower, a bud does not count. That's a whole different kettle of fish of paperwork, even if it's the same protea. So, and at the Heathrow station where they do HANA, where they do all those things, they don't have the names and registrations of closed buds. So if you have it there and they open it and say, what is this? Oh, it's a bud of this. You can't have it. Then they take it away. So it's really tricky. So I'm trying to get my flowers to that stage so that they crack open so they see the open flower is ready to go. So this is at top of Porterville. It's one of my favorite protea farms. This is the only protea farm that has all of these beautiful queen protea hybrids. Not man-made hybrids. This is hybrids that happen from the sugar birds there on the farm. And then they sow the seeds, and whatever nice comes up, they keep. And they are very famous for that. And they're the only ones in the world with this one, which we also used last year, which is snow leopard, which is so beautiful. So this is the son of the grower, very proud of all his blomme, and now starting to protect all the buds with its little cushion. This is another farm I visited. This is just outside the Leesthorpe, and she just specializes in all of these dainty, small little proteas, the ugliest little bushes. But underneath is all of these fantastic little fairy tale flowers. And she had one new variety that she launched this year, made a little bit public, and she only has 2 plants of it. And we got the flowers of those plants. And then my favorite part of the whole process is going to get the visa. Now, I don't know how your visa offices are here in Joburg, but next time I think I'm coming here. Because I went to the visa office and now it's in the center of Cape Town, the whole thing changed. I arrived there at 9, there's the appointment, 9, I left at 4. That's how long it took. And you sit outside on the curb, there's no place binnein. Anyway, so we got our visas, and now we set off for London. Now, arriving in London, this is a week in advance, well, 6 days. And this is our spot. So we don't really know our spot in advance. We have a foggy idea, but they don't really tell us, and they don't tell us who our neighbors are. So on arrival, we get a little map with a circle, and it says, there you are. They don't even accompany us to it. And then we go and look for it. It's actually quite nice, though, to go and look for our spot. And this year, personally, I think we got the best spot. So it is, I think there's a laser. Dwe battery. Then there we are at the corner. But now what makes that special is Chelsea, the big marquee has 2 entrances, 2 main ones. The one that seems like the main one, which was at the front slide that I had with the big logo, but that's where the plebs go in. It's the cheap tickets. At the back, at Sloane Square, that's where all the fancies go in. And they enter at the main avenue. And that's where everybody usually flocks to. But from the main avenue, there's 2 entrances into the marquee, and they look into one spot, and that's exactly where we are. Now, that's quite nice. So now, in my mind, I'm reorientating our garden. So how can we maximize this beautiful spot? But we have David Austin to compete with again, and they put him next to us. So, and he always goes, like me, he always pushes the limits and go as high as he can. So I'm now trying to see how can we swivel this thing so I can hide his roses. Then we go to the Builders Depot and we go and buy our goodies. But last year, I decided I'm going to make some different arrangement for this year. Because last year, it was just me and Tristan now for this week at the site. We're building it. And last year, it was just us 2 building that whole clay structure, and it was a biggie moeilijk. So I decided I'm going to hire a carpenter in London, baie duur. But I decided that's a moot. I'll drink less coffee. But I had the carpenter, and what's amazing about the carpenter is that he comes with these little, like it's a taxi, and in that taxi he's got all the tools you can think of. It's like a pop-up shop. He's got all the tools laid out, machines, everything. He's handy, Tristan is very handy, I watch. And then they start to build the thing. So now we're starting to get our deliveries. Now, deliveries is always a big headache at the Chelsea Flower Show. Why? Because there is 1 road in, 1 road out. There's 600 gardens. 600 gardens needs a lot of trucks and deliveries. So they are extremely strict on your time schedule for deliveries. So about 6 months in advance, I would say 5, Jenny, which is in charge of that, starts to log in our deliveries. We need to submit the driver's license of the driver, the registration of the truck, the make of the truck, and the exact time when they will be at the preferred gate. That's a long time for a delivery truck to already give you that information. But we need that. Otherwise, if we arrive there and we're a little bit late, then we get moved out of the way and we go to Battersea Park, and there we have to sit and wait until there's a gap again. That could be 2 hours, that could be a day. So, because I'm early, not a lot of people have started around me yet, I do the deliveries as quick as possible. So now we have our flower foam there, I'll get to that a little bit later. We have some rocks arriving and our plywoods. And there is our carpenter, very, very busy. And then so we start, first of all, to get our orientation right. Now I've got the cliff, I've got the 2 doors, I want to maximize on that. So the cliff goes straight through the middle, so we have 2 ocean beaches and 2 mountain sides. I say our water feature can't leak, so we need to be extra careful with it. So this took the longest time to get that pond right. So we have these layers of wood at the bottom, and then we have 5 layers of plywood on the sides, which we glue together. And then we do the layering of all of those, paintworks and rubbers and all of those things to make sure that it doesn't leak. It was such a sturdy thing that the whole team at the end of the whole show tried to break that thing apart. It took forever. And this year again, I decided, okay, let's go hay bales. Again, just to fill the gaps, because we need some filling. I can't buy filling, this is cheap, you can easily handle it. The only problem with hay bale, well, there's 2 problems, one I didn't know of. There's 2, when they get a little bit soggy, because it does get a bit moist in there, they start to lose their shape and they start to go puff on one side. So in the end, we had to build shelves on top of them as well, just to keep them sturdy. But they were great into filling gaps. And then, as with my design, South Africa is the flower basket of Africa. We have most of the flowering plants. When you go a little bit north, yes, there's some beautiful flowers, but it's more towards the green, the beautiful foliage. But we are more for the flowers. And that's why I have this edging of basketry that goes around this garden, just to have this overflowing basket of plants. Very luxurious. But I can't take any dry material like stockies over to London. The paperwork's just too much, and it's too much of a risk. So what I did was I phoned, because I was busy with a garden in Luxembourg, and I was working with him in sculpting sculptures for that garden. And I asked him, and he's based in Wales, can he help me with this edging? But I wanted to look a little bit more earthy, though. I don't want the English basket. And he says it's a little bit tricky because they can only use willow, and willow does look a little bit, Mr. Price. And then, so I told him, why don't we take all of this willow and about 3 months in advance, put it in a solution, like you would your olives, and put them in that solution and let them kind of lose their color, lose their beauty, like that pristineness of it, and then go dark and look a little bit more African, a little bit more grounded. And that's what we did. So about 3 months in advance, we started with the edging, and it worked out beautifully. So we did in 8 pieces. He came first, because I've had my lesson before where you do the edging last, and then your wiskunde was 8, and then you have to adjust the whole garden to fit into your little mistake, and that's not a nice feeling. So in any case, so he brings it in all of these little pieces, and then it takes about 2 days for us to weave those pieces together so that you won't notice any connection. So the 2 higher sides are there about 600 high, that's where the mountains come down, and the lower sides, that's where the beach would connect to the lawn. So it was really, really pretty, and that treatment in the water helped a lot. Now there's also, you can see our pond starting to take shape. Now rocks is very important because the Cape is net vol clipper. So, but it needs to be a rock that can relate to the Cape and doesn't look too fake as well. And that's not so easy to find. And so I looked online for so many places, and there was one down in the south of the UK that made rocks that I felt was a little bit more similar to the Cape rock. And we made some, and I just prayed it would come out well. And then they delivered it, and it actually was quite perfect. It looks a little bit rough when it's delivered, but remember, we're draping it with plants and there's water going over. So we can always do a little bit of paintwork if we need be, but in the end we didn't. They're very light, you can pick them up with your pinky. Now we're starting to build this kloof. Now, the kloof is quite important. That's our main focal area, right? But when you stand on this side at the entrance of our garden, main front view, and you look through the kloof, I don't want anybody to be smiling back at you. Because it's all about photos and videos in the end of the day. And they can't take photos if there's people on that side. But I still want you to see that there's some movement on that side, there's something happening on that side, so I want to force you to still move around the garden. So what I did with that is the one half of the mountain is at 90 degrees, and the other one goes at 45. So this mountain needs to cantilever. So you'll see light going through, you'll see the water going to the other side, and something happening, maybe a bit of movement you see in the shadow and the water, or maybe a bietjie van 'n denim, but that's where it ends. So you can take very nice photos. That was a bit tricky. Any case, so now we start with the beaches. Now, I didn't have enough money for sand. I'll tell you why, because you would think that beach sand would be easy to get. Hierso ons gaan skep net. But there you need a mining permit for beach sand. So the only place that I could buy white beach sand was, I bought only 12 packets of sand, and small packets. And it was almost 14,000 rand for 12 small packets of beach sand, white sand. So I only had about 3 millimeters of coverage of white sand that I need to get into the water and on the beach. So that was quite precious. So what I did is we went to go and beadle. So we look, wow, that was the reason why I got Tanya Visser to join us. So Tanya Visser always wanted to be part of the Chelsea Flower Show, just to come and build and experience it. And I thought this year, why not invite her to come with? I think it will be a great part of the team for this year. And it's good to have the editor of our big gardening magazine, just to get a perspective of behind the scenes, from her point of view. And that's exactly what she did. I think she's writing a very nice article. Gaan daai moet koop. But she's great at going to find things. So we were stuck with soil. So she was walking around, and then there were people digging out foundations here and here, and quickly organized, and then we got soil for our beaches, just to lift the beaches, because can't do it on hay bales. But the problem is, this soil, I've had a garden every single year for the last 110 years. That soil is so vrot. It stinks, it's just so poisonous. So we are putting it up there, and you just like cup it too, and then just dress it with hessian so we don't have to, it's really bad. And so we did the 2 beaches on both sides, so you just have that little bit of topography to play with our precious sand later on. There we're still a little bit busy with the sand, but then, again, we have Babylon's touring outside, which is actually quite nice. So. It felt like we had a bit of family with us over there. And we are a bit lucky, though, because we're in the Grand Marquee, and I love the Marquee. Because outside, it's raining, it's windy, it's sunny, all those plane trees have their seeds falling, and it's like, it's like fiberglass going in your throat, and everybody gets sick there from that. So every now and then they are back into the South African Fynbos exhibit, the whole Babylon's touring sitting over there, just getting a bit of a break from outside. And we charge them for that, for a little bit of sand. So we did actually get some nice sand to to do the final touches. But now me and Tristan and the carpenter has been there for a week, just about, and we are finishing all the main structure work, which was important. The flowers are supposed to arrive the next day, together with all the rest of the volunteers. They're not volunteers, they're representatives of all our sponsors. And this is Shaluva and Amy, and they are from Grootbos. They're the guides, the Fynbos guides that take people on safari vehicles. And it's really nice because, well, they're helping us with the flower show, but afterwards we also need people to tell people about all of these proteas and give them stories about it, and also explain to them where can you come and look at it and sell Grootbos. It's still the sand story. We found some nice sand there in the asblik. But there you can see our little structure coming together. The rocks are placed where I wanted the waterfalls, and we are now starting to test with a little bucket of water, just letting it fall just to see whether it's in the best eyesight. And I start to mark out on the walls where exactly what plant will be, because this is the last time I will be in the kloof. I step out, and Tristan and Rensha will step in, and it's only them inside. Then, our garden is not just vol goeders. We need to build tunnels under the garden. Because what if something happens to the pump, or the electrics, or something in the kloof, and we can't get to that? So we need to build tunnels underneath all our installations, so that you can actually walk underneath the garden. And whilst I'm busy there, I get phone calls and WhatsApp photos of all the farmers saying, ja, ons is besig om te laai. We are busy, cleaning the flowers. This was also in Portable, and it's quite exciting because now things are starting to move. And this is our buckets, 500 buckets this year. We only allow that 1.5 meters around our garden to pack our little goodies, but as South Africans, we just occupy every little piece that we had there. But luckily, we're a little bit early, so some of the people haven't arrived yet because there's floral installations and they live in London. It's quick and easy for them to come in with their trucks and just do a quick installation, not for us. So we have some guys and girls on the stand that literally plays, that moving chairs, taking our buckets from this side to that side, boxes from this side to this side when people come to put their things around. There's our little taxi with all the tools. And then the Proteas left South Africa, goes to Dubai. In Dubai, we had some issues with our boxes. They really damaged them badly. But then they arrived in Heathrow, and I got the text that says, all good, everything cleared. It will be delivered the next morning, which is the Monday morning. I want to start flower arranging on Tuesday, so it's good timing. They'll all be there Monday morning at 8 o'clock. So, 8 o'clock we're ready there, almal met ons handskoene reg om al hierdie goeders te dra. And the truck is just not arriving. And it's not arriving, and we're trying to phone it, and it's not answering his phone. It was 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, lunchtime. And I have a little sensor, me and my agent with the flowers, that tells us what the temperature of the flowers are. So I need the flowers to be until Chelsea, 2 and 4 degrees. If it goes over that, they start to sweat, and we get marks on the proteas. Not only do they sweat, some of them start to break open too quickly. And that's really worrisome. So I am sitting there stressing because I see the 13.5 to 16 degrees Celsius that's going on. But we can't get hold of this truck. So frantically, luckily I've got some very quiet tannies on the team, and they were phoning everywhere, and we got the delivery at 5 that afternoon. Obviously, he's out of the slot of getting into the RHS, so that was a lot of begging and smeeking at the RHS to get him in. But we got him into the main entrance, and we started to offload. So that's when all the presents arrive. And that's, again, the only time when I know what we have received in our assignment, because there's a lot of promises in what you're going to get, but once I open the box, I know what I have, and I know what I can't use, what I have too much of, or what is damaged. So once they're loaded, Chris makes a note, and he goes through each and every box, see what we have, and then we decide, okay, this is first to be cut. It's 25,000 stems of proteas this year. Last year was 20,000. We went the max we could in regards to our volume that we have, which is 3 meters high. If you go higher than 3 meters, you need engineering drawings and engineers and all of those people on site and harnesses. So I stopped at 3. And then, like I said, we start sorting it, the very thirsty ones, the ones that take a long time to open, get opened first, start to cut, and then put them in the buckets and sort them color by color and length by length. It's very pretty when you open those boxes. It's really beautiful. And immediately, that woof of fynbos starts to fill this marquee. Now, this is the smiles before we start cutting. The proteas go into all its buckets. I'd also have some foliage in because I don't want only flowers. And then I did sneak in some king protea buds. That was a little bit risky. As I mentioned before, we're not allowed buds. It needs a separate permit, but they didn't have a category for that on the London side. So there was a sneak, but they got through. And then starting to fill all the buckets. Now we are on like 16 sites already. The smiles are fading very fast. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to keep the mood up. When we've got Tanya, you know, she makes grappies every now and then. But I see she's also avoiding that secretary. And, bringing coffee and cool drink. And it's hard work. It really is hard work. And that is the end result of the day, unfortunately. We do get lots of blisters and blood and things that happen. But, niks wat goed is maklik nie. And then, last year, ons mag nie meer oasis gebruik nie. No more oasis at Chelsea Flower Show. Last year, I sneaky it in. This year, I couldn't do that. So we had to go for that fiber flora. Fiber flora is literally just spun rock wool. It's rock wool, just pressed together. But when you put it in a bucket with water, it starts to dissolve and becomes a soup. And it really doesn't work. It gives a bit of volume in the water, but it does not hold a heavy protea flower. The next day, the protea flower, when it's here, it would be there. So we had no choice but to do chicken wire on each and every of our 500 buckets. And unfortunately, that job went to Chris and Bulalani, which I still owe something big. Every morning we go to the flower market because we want some soft flowers. That's where the bit of the northern part, Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, came into play this year. So you can't fly that open. Well, they're not flowering at the moment in South Africa, but there are some growers around Europe and in Asia that do grow them. So I arranged with the flower markets to look out for me when that's on the Alsmeer auction, and when it's there, they would buy it and then send it to the flower market. But I will also walk around there and look at what I can find, like those little chinks again. These were the 2 importers that I was using for that, and what I was looking for, well, there were 2 very special plants that I wanted this year. On the one side, the Indian Ocean side, is Sandersonias, the Chinese lantern. I don't know if you know it. It comes from the Midlands, Valley of 1,000 Hills in KwaZulu-Natal. It is world famous as one of the most popular cut flowers, especially in Asia, New Zealand, Australia. New Zealand's the biggest grower of Sandersonias. In South Africa, you cannot find one. It is impossible. I don't know where to get one. The only time, last year was the first time I've seen a real plant in its natural habitat in South Africa, because they're almost extinct. Most of them are used for muti or as a lucky charm. And also they grow exactly where sugarcane grows. So New Zealand was going to send me that. And the other one was Diazas. We've never had Diazas on the floor, and that would be on the Atlantic, the colder side. But that was a tall order. And I knew in my head that is actually impossible. So my alternative was Cadoxus, if the Diazas don't appear. And it didn't seem like they were going to appear. And then here's our trochee. All the tools are out. It's left on site, and now it's full of blomma. Even the leucospermums, those pin cushions there was nothing available in South Africa, not even in KZN where we usually get. So I had to get them from Portugal. This leucodendron here at the bottom, this little tallboss, such a beautiful one. It's South African, but the license is based in Portugal. So I can't get our plant in South Africa. That's the Sandersonia, the Chinese lanterns. It's such a beautiful thing. And we had them in perfect flower, these long spikes. You know where I saw that little Sandersonia in the wild? Only one. Right in front of Tanya's house is this piece of felt. And she drove past and she saw a little bit of orange in there and she took a photo and says, Leon, is this what I think it is? I said, yes, I'm there tomorrow. There you can see the rose stand starting to get height. It was a beautiful stand though. It was really gorgeous. But at that one, and it's one of the tallest ones. And on this side, Bahrain was there for the first time ever. Perhaps the last. And then we start to put the flowers in. Now that's where I come into play. And it's difficult because I do start at a lot of different spots. And when I get tired of this spot, I move to that spot and I start there and I come back and I feel it's not right. So it's a constant moving around and changing. I think some people, when they stand there, they'll think, oh, Leon really knowing what he's doing there. But it takes some time and you morph with it. And that's where you can see the hay bales is failing in what they're supposed to do. So I got the photographer in, because he didn't seem that busy then. And then he was needing to make shelves. Now, again, hay bales. So it's not in the paperwork, and I never thought about it, but when RHS walked past one day, they said, Leon, you know the hay bales can be quite a fire hazard. And did you spray them with fire retardant? I said, what's that? Anyway, so it was not in their rules at all, but they requested me to spray it with fire retardant, which I completely understand, because if a fire happens and the show shuts down, I'm in the newspapers for the wrong reason. And we are using water and we are using electricity that goes through these hay bales. So I said, no, okay. But in order to do so, they had to shut down our site. And said, until the fire retardant hasn't been sprayed, you can't continue. So, okay, so we stopped the site. I thought, this was quick. I just run down the street, gaan to builders toe en gaan koop. It doesn't work like that in the UK. If you need something, it's usually online, and you have to go and order it. And we could not find any in London, nothing. Even the RHS tried. The only bottle key we could find was in Birmingham. So now it needs to come overnight with courier, so we were shut down for a whole day at the Chelsea Flower Show. So it seems like a nice little rest, but let me tell you, there was no sleep for me that night, because now this calendar of the schedule is now just so much more intense in my mind. So when I lie in the bed, I was just like, okay, this needs to go there, very quickly. So the next morning, I must say the couriers are very good though. And they arrived there and we started to spray all of this fire retardant. Luckily we did. I'm just saying. I'll come back to that. Now, the Cape is full of moss. When you walk through the little pathways, you'll see all the drip on the rocks, and there's always moss growing everywhere. We have such beautiful moss in the Cape. But to get moss is a bit tricky. You can't go and take it out of the veld. So there's only one nursery in the UK that grows moss on big scale, and they're the only allowed supplier for the Chelsea or the RHS flower shows. And they grow it up in Scotland, and they grow it under pine trees, and they grow all of these different mosses, like lots and lots of them. It's almost like instant lawn. You go and cut your moss strips. And that's what we got there. And it was beautiful. It's so delicate. All of these little boxies with this moss in. It was absolutely beautiful. So I left them outside. and let them dry out a little bit because I didn't want them to be too hot, too moist. I don't know how they will react to it. I know moss, if you give it a bit of water a day before, it will recover. But if it's too moist and becomes dark, then that's a little bit tricky. And also we were still cutting flowers, so we still needed to finish that. But that's not where the moss ends. So, when at last I started to pack them out, this is only a little bit of it. When you put moss on the wall, on our rock walls, on our canyon, I can't have it patchy, because that's what will happen if I put the moss like this and trying to patch it. So, what I have to do is I get a big sheet of hessian and I make komberse. So we make these blankets where we take the moss and then with a needle and thread, we sew all the moss together to make an even moss blanket. Thin it out, merge them so that they look like one piece of moss. And only then we take the blankets, place it where we need the moss, and then cut out the pieces that need to go where they need to go. That job went to Shaluva. I still owe her a lot. But she loved it because she could put down the secateurs. At the back of that, you'll see a little pot of arum lilies. First time I'm using really arum lilies in the show, but I thought that white color in the dark canyon could be really nice. And it is so cape. That little potjie there with not one flower I could use. I need to buy extra flowers to put in. 55 pounds. That's over 1,000 rand for that little one. In the Cape, I can't give them away. And then, every now and then, Jenny comes past everybody because all of those little seeds of the plane trees are flying everywhere and everybody get a handful pilla all the time so that we don't get sick. There's the plane trees. It's called Chelsea fever, and just about everybody at the Chelsea Flower Show gets it. And we got it really bad, though. And then my Streptocarpus arrived, which I was so excited about, because I ordered this from Dibley's, which is the only Streptocarpus proper commercial breeder in the world, and they're based in the UK, and they grow these ones. And I told them, about 8 months in advance, I told them, I need these Streptocarpus, but I want Falling Stars, and I want Gwen, because they don't look too hybridy. They look a little bit more like our local ones, although they're not. And I need them to be nice and full. And when they arrived, it was just absolutely beautiful. Almost too much flowers, so I had to cut some flowers out, together with some ferns. And here we are starting with the canyon. So I'm not in there. This is now Tristan and Rensha. That water is 4 degrees Celsius. It's freezing cold. And it's another little rule. I almost said silly, but Chelsea Flower Show tests your water temperature. If it goes over 20 degrees, you have to empty your water because then it's a biohazard. So we need to keep it as cold as possible. And the poor things can't have shoes in there, so they are shivering like that, working in there. I must say, they did an amazing job. But that job took about 3 days. There's Rensha and there's Tanya. She did it for an hour. And you can see we're building all of our little pieces and things just to get everything together. Now, health and safety. Jy moet boots hê met steel caps and all of those things. And my little friend over there can't work with the boots in the water, but he's allowed to work in the water without shoes. But once you step out of the water, you have to have your shoes on. And you don't think about it, because now you're doing the blomma, and of course you're going to walk outside just to have a little look at what you're doing. And every time he does that, you just hear the flaky. And then they come to give him his warning. The problem with that is, you get 3 warnings. 4th time they shut down the site for a day. So I had to drop everything I do and go and speel polisieman on this side and do flowers on this side. So I can just because they're not doing it on purpose, it's just like, you're going outside. And then every time they just moved to the beach, I would just like, nee, bly binne. Anyway, so 3 times we got warnings, so we were on the last stretch. But luckily we weren't shut down. And then some more flowers, lots and lots of flowers to be cut, and Bulelani is still busy with these wires. Now we've shaped our beaches. I don't have enough sand for the beach to go in the water, but it's very important that the sand goes in the water, because if there's no white sand under my dark water, which I'll get to, you won't see the dark water. It will just look like dirty water, and then I'll get marked down. So it's important that this beach goes in. But if you just hoy it, the water takes the sand and puts it on the ground. So we had to manufacture a ramp that goes on each side of the beach and then goes into the water. And then do our little dribble of sand on top of it so you can see that color of the water. Every morning we had a little meeting. I'm not very good at those things, but in the morning I would just say, because everybody finds their own way on the side. It's not a dictatorship there. You find your way, you're very good at that part of the garden or this part, and then that is where you are, where you're comfortable with. All I'm saying is that today we need to be able to do this, and this, otherwise behind, or clean up a little bit, or maybe cry a coffee. There we are, so we're very close to being finished. Now, as always, the South Africans are in first and out last of the whole Chelsea Flower Show. We usually get chased out by security, because after 7 o'clock, they don't have insurance in the marquee, so we can't stay longer. Now we're starting to see all the mergers coming together and the flowers doing their thing. This is the first time I've used agapanthus at the Chelsea Flower Show, because it's such a gewone plant, although a very nice one. But because of this year, I'm going towards the Eastern Cape, and I saw how they grew there together with the streptocarpus. I wanted to bring them in, just a little touch of them. There's our Sandersonias. Beautifully, I love the orange and the yellow with this blue in the background. This is the Atlantic side, Indian Ocean side. And then this is always one of my favorite proteas. It's the ugliest one when you open the boxes. All the leaves are usually damaged. The little flower buds are brown and closed and tiny. But I arrange them usually en masse. And everybody looks at them just to have their doubts on that. But a day before they start to open, they open very quickly. You can almost watch them. And then they have these little sparkles everywhere. They're just one of my favorites, called Robin. There's Ayoba Star Pearl, which I had to get from Portugal. A little bit of Petru. Another big bunch of Petru. And then Ornithogalum, the orange one, also on the warmer side. If you drive just outside Valiesdorp towards Worcester, there's one place there where every season it's just orange chinks. Tall, big ones, not the white ones. And then sulphury. And a little bit of other drips and drabs in between to give us this beach look over the basket. Now, to come back to the water. So I had the idea to get that water that color. And what gives that water that beautiful amber whiskey color? That is tannins. Tannins leaches into the soil from all the old and burnt and dead branches of fynbos, and especially restios. And over the years it leaches in and it colors our water. That's exactly what you drink in rooibos tea. So the night before the volunteers arrived, I skrik wakker and I phoned them and I WhatsApped them and I said, please, before you come, each and everyone bring a boxie rooibos tea. And that's what they did. So we had hundreds and hundreds of bags of rooibos tea, put it in a bucket with some boiling water, meng. And then I said, no, don't worry, gooi het sommer alles in die pond. So we had this huge big pond that looked so polluted with all the goedjies wat daar gedryf, but it got that color almost immediately. It went in. Not only did we have the color, but suddenly that rooibos flavor was just filling the room. So now we are getting to a point. Every hour we start to scoop the water so that it can get to that clear state. And this is Babylon's touring again. That's Ernst van Jaarsveld, one of our most famous botanists. I grew up with Ernst. He and my dad worked together at Loskopdam, and so I knew him from like forever. And they were so kind. And that's the garden now for final judging. This is the Friday evening. So we started the Tuesday with the flowers now and the greenery, and this is Friday. You can see the color of the tea now shining on the white sand. And the rush of water. So we have to be careful with the water though, right? Because there's another rule, and it's about 200 pages of rules. And I've never read all of them, but Marinda has. Our water, sound, cannot influence the garden next to us. So if you stand to the garden next to us, our garden must not grab their attention. It's not fair. So I have to sit there now, the water is rushing and we're doing all our things, and we have to choke and do each and every waterfall and run to the next rose garden and then see if we don't influence them and just around our garden. So many things to think about. It was just about a day before we finished. Now I'm jumping slightly back. And I put the Scadoxus in, it's all really beautiful. And then a guy walked into the Grand Marquis and he walked towards me with a klein boxie, soos dit. And in that little box was 6 Dyser orchids in flower. So he heard that I was looking for these Dysers, and he brought them all the way from Amsterdam to the show. And that was really, really special. And that's where a tear or two escaped the eye. And they were so beautiful, exactly the stage of open flower that I wanted. And 6 plants was enough. I didn't need more than 6 plants. And there's Tristan very, very happy about his Dysers, plucked out some Scadoxus, and then put some Dysers in our drip, exactly how they would grow with those coral ferns. It's the first time ever we've used them at Chelsea. Now the big drama. So this is now a day before, now it's actually 2 days before judging. And we've finished a lot of different areas. And when we leave at 7 o'clock, there is the security, there's big security, and they all have these like Rottweilers. And the next morning I'm there first and I see all of these spore. And I'm like, vandag is nie die dag om met my te sukkel nie. And I thought it was the security guys bringing their dogs in. I went to the RHS office and I said, listen, can we just like tone down of entering the garden with the dogs and things? I don't have more sand. And they said, no, it's not our dogs, it's a fox. So, every night since then, we had this little guy coming to visit our garden and drink rooibos tea. The story became so popular around Chelsea that it just went everywhere, even the newspapers. How this fox every single night on cue would come to drink our water, which is the rooibos tea. But I did find out a little bit later, well, this is a nice little snippet for rooibos, let me tell you. I did find out later because I was talking to Babylon's Tour and also about it. I said, okay, this is not oulik, moeilik, maar oulik. And they said, no, because their stand, the edging that they did for their stand was made out of rimpies, leather, cured leather. And they had the skedel of a sequoia that was lying there. And the little fox ate all their rimpies and chewed on the skedel. So that means, after the fox had all his biltong, he had to come and drink some tea. And that was the story. But now it makes it tricky, right? Because now we are judging. And judging, I have 80 words in my brief. The brief's the most important part. It's a little write-up that you do to tell the story. The judges read that brief, and when they look at the garden, they go through the 100 points, and that needs to tell the story. I did not add anything in that brief of a fox. So what do? So I went to RHS also, and I told him, okay, what do? I need to keep him out. He cannot fence it, because if he goes in and he can't get out, then there's trouble. So some days he was calm, other days he had a bit of a party. And there's it on the news. It was on the news everywhere. People loved it. So I went to the RHS and said, what are we going to do? Tomorrow morning is the main judging, and I have this much sand left in the little baggie. So I don't know if it will be enough if he makes a big gemors. So they said, the only advice we can give you is that the team needs to drink a lot of water. And then, after the show, when everybody's left, put it in the bucket, and then mark our territory. So that's what we did. So after everybody left, we stayed on for a few more minutes. I didn't do it. And in any case, so they did enough. And then Tristan marked out our territory alongside our garden. Needless to say, it didn't work. The next morning we arrived, the fox was there again, but he was very kind to us. It was only a beautiful little spoortjie na die water en terug, and we used our last little bit of sand, and I think we covered as much. We had nothing left. But to me it was also because it's such a nice story. Last year we had the doves mos. And now, after judging, I think it's quite nice to have it there. It's a bit of a, Africa, there's animals, and it seems like we're inviting all of the European ones there. So I leave it there, but just for judging. So the next morning, we kind of quickly cleaned up everything that he made a mess on, and cleaned the lawn where there was a bit of sand, and now we're ready for judging. So we are chased out of the marquee. We have to go away, go drink tea, go rest, and then they do the final things. And you know what? We are happy with our display. We weren't feeling like there's something else that we should have done. I think all of us said, because we all went through it meticulously, we were all confident in it. But you never know what's going to happen. You cannot predict it. So we're always very nervous. And the next morning, unlike other shows, again, that little cardboard is there in front of your garden, and you can go in just after 6 and see what you get. And there's the robin. It's so beautiful. And I love the basketry. It was so nice. That basket is actually in London. It's a new garden in the city now. That's the waterfall. So it's 8 waterfalls, but it gives you this kind of almost just after the rain effect, all the water just rushes down. There's the Streptocarpus, Multiflorus, the Seeroog, which you have here. The Diza uniflora in its full glory. The beach, perfect. And a little bit of white Streptocarpus just to lighten up the valley in between and not make it too monotonous with the blue, which is Gwen, which is a really beautiful one. There's Ice Queen, always one of my favorite proteas, because I put it at a prominent spot where they look at you, and they've got those eyes in the middle, and no matter how you walk, those proteas will look at you all the time. And then these ones we've never used before. These little proteas here, I'll show them now, but also a little bit of red dot pocus. They're called White Knight and Grandicolor. It's also the first time we've used it. And White Knight you almost can never get for sale. Niobe, which is an old favorite, and it's just such a beautiful plant and works so well with the cerureus. A little bit of pity filler. And our chinks, quite healthy. And that was at the end of just before judging, so I'm skipping a bit now. Everybody very happy. I'm the only one with the deurmekaar hare. And the lawn is perfect. And then the next morning, we arrived. It is a special feeling when you get that gold medal. It always will be. It doesn't matter if you had one last year or that. It's a lot of work that went in there. It's for the sponsors. It's for the whole team, and obviously for South Africa. And the garden became very popular very quickly. At the end of the day, the South African garden got more views online, more than double the views online of any other garden, inside, outside, on top, than any other garden at Chelsea. And you can't see the roses. So Carol Klein is always first to come and congratulate us, or just to come and hang out with us. She's always my favorite person at Chelsea. And there in the back, this is now after the medal, you can see the fox was there again. There's some voetspoortjies. And those ones we just left. Because the story was out there and everybody wanted to come see the rooibos tea and the fox. So, now, one of the most difficult things to do at the Chelsea Flower Show is to find a toilet. So when you grab the courage to go and look for one, it takes a long time. And that morning, we got our gold medal, we had all our things. Obviously, we had a few things to drink, so now I have to go to the bathroom. So I stand in that queue, and it takes forever to do that. And you have to mull through all of these people. So it can easily, from my stand, through the people, bathroom back is an hour. So now I am at the bathroom, I'm in the queue, they're phoning me, Leon, please, you must come back to the garden. BBC needs to do a little interview because it's now the launch of the BBC channel where it's on every night. I said, yes, like, wag net so bietjie, ek is amper voor. Anyways, and they were very anxious, and I went to the bathroom, and on the way I actually got a bit distracted by Babylon Stoor, and I went to chat to Arends, and then I got there, not knowing that they were pretending to do an interview, and it was actually giving the award, which is the Lawrence Award at Chelsea. Now, the Lawrence Award is the highest award at the Chelsea Flower Show. We've never had it. This is the best exhibit of all the RHS shows through Scotland, Wales, and the UK. And that's the head of the RHS, Mr. Keith Reid, giving it to me, showing me he had to wait a bit. And unlike the other gold medal that we got there, this one is actually real gold. Now we are finished, and we are happy, and the people start to come in, and the press is having all their moment. This property now kind of belongs to them. They're doing videos, and the channel on the BBC is starting, and there's a lot of interest in the garden, luckily. We had some interesting people visiting. This was Princess Eugenie coming by the garden. And then after her, I didn't take a photo because I didn't know who he was. But he came with a lot of people, and I just thought, there's lots of fancy people in London. And he came through with all these people, and after when he left, because we chatted about a few things, so who is he? Oh, he's the Duke of Edinburgh. So that's Charles's brother, not the naughty one, the other one. Anyway, so when this is the Mayor of London coming to visit our garden, we had a lot of royal dignitaries from Africa, actually, coming to visit the garden. And then this was also special. So we had this lady, they immigrated about a year ago from South Africa to the UK, and she came to see the garden, which you couldn't miss. And she saw all of this proteas, and obviously the emotion runs because the family is still here, and I could see she was like very delicate. And then the trane started, but she really cried, like, I didn't know what to do. It's a bit awkward now. And he goes, but she really cried, and she couldn't stop crying. It wasn't a bad cry, it was a happy cry, though. And I gave her some flowers and said, take her on a tour around the garden. All the time I'm walking with her, so, yeah, and she's crying. And at the end I said, Tanya, please, just go and chat to her also a little bit about that. And she went to chat to her, and now Tanya's crying. But that is still, every year, and I never get tired of it. That's how South Africans get so emotional about our country and our people and us as a whole. And that was really special. And then, obviously, the war veterans come. It's always a highlight for me. It's their territory. They do what they want there. And usually when they come, this is now at the end of the show, they come and ring the bell. They walk down the main avenue, ring the bell at the balcony, and that is when everything stops, and then the sale begins. So this is still the public at the gardens. We chat to them. We're all around the garden chatting to them and trying to entice them to come to South Africa, come and visit us, tell them about our flowers. It's not only people to come and visit. Like I said, there's a lot of industries there, like all the perfume companies, the important ones in the world are there, with their noses coming to sniff our blomme, to see if there's anything else that they can put into their spreekies. And then the media was also very kind to us, and not only there, but also here, which I appreciate so much. And then it is the end. And that is always very stressful for me, because now we're going to sell it, because we need to make a little bit of extra money, not only to go into next year, but also still to pay some bills. And beforehand, I grab everybody and we do a little planiki. So we even have a piece of paper and we write the strategy. So you are on this corner, you are on this corner, because now we have two halves of a garden. We don't have one garden, it's two. So I need people on this corner, people on this corner. I will go to the top of the mountain and Tristan on this top, because it's a bit dangerous. And then we go gooi blomme af, and they need to sell and keep people in line so that everybody can get what they get. And only when you have a rackie in your hand means you've paid, and it's cash only. And then the word goes out again, and the queues start to form to come and buy our flowers. But we give them big bunches of flowers, not small. So we are very generous. We just want to get rid of all the flowers and go to a good house. They can dry them, do whatever. And whatever we make is what we make. We don't have a goal for that. But it helps us with breakdown. So we don't have to, do anything with the flowers. So, in any case, so the bell rings and then chaos breaks out. And I just gooi blomme af, and in about 2 hours, the sale is over and everybody is done and they go home. All the ladies very happy, all the husbands not so happy. And then again we have about 2 hours to break down, because in that 2 hours it's mainly for free, not everything, but a lot of it's for free in regards to trucks taking things away. So we really need to rush. So what we do is when the public is chased out, we quickly down a big glass of Pims, and we have a little bit of a discussion, and then we start to drill and get all of the structures out, the plants out. Most of the flowers are already, there's the Pims. Most of the flowers are already out. The basket went to a donation for the new garden in London, which they took. All the buckets and things went to it's a flower arranging school. And then all the tools went some. So everything had its home. And the things that didn't have a home, we need to compile in heaps for recycling. So it starts. Let me tell you, this is not the fun part of Chelsea. And then 2 hours later, everything is neat in its piles where it needs to go, with truck they need to come and collect it this year. So for me, the two best photos for this year's Chelsea was this one, where we just received the flowers, and it's excitement of starting this journey and making something out of nothing. And then that is the end, where Tanya is sitting next to the hay bales, taking a sneaky smoke. So luckily, we did spray those bales. Our little vesties is already washed in the UK, waiting for next year. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, that's very special. Do you have any questions for me? I think I explained well. I think we're getting a little microphone. Oh, okay.
I just want to know, if you built those tunnels under your display, why didn't you use it when nature called?
That is possible. It's very possible. I didn't expect that question.
You're going to have to be the runner,
Okay.
because we don't have a runner today.
I can look.
So, Leon, from arriving on site to breaking down, how long does that take?
It's 2 weeks. From arrival on site at the airport to back at the airport.
I want to know who got the disers.
Oh, that I need to tell you. So not everything was positive, right? So after we finished, just before the breakdown starts, we did take a quick little team photo. And it was on the other side of the garden, on the other corner. And we were taking this quick little photo, literally a minute, 2 minutes. When we went back to the other side, somebody ripped all the divers out, and they were gone. Yeah. So we were going to give it to a grower for us for next time, but yeah, they were all gone.
Yeah. That's really sad. Anybody got
Ek
something
kan
to
gou
say?
hardloop met I'll be nay now.
I'll try to get to everybody.
Leon, how big is the area that you're allotted?
So that one is about 8.5 by 8.5. Yeah. And then we go 3 meters up.
And you had a lawn surrounding, so...
We don't have to, but I do
I
that.
see.
I just
Okay.
I make it neat and tidy all around again. Otherwise, it looks like somebody's walked there for 2 weeks. So it looks a little bit worn. Yeah. Our garden is, I would say, the roses were slightly bigger than ours. I think they're 10 by 10, and then we're second. Yeah.
Leon, what did you do with the basket?
Oh, so the baskets were given to. It's a charity organization that build vegetable gardens around London, and this is now in that garden.
I've got a question, and I've got the mic.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Leon, my question is just going out of my mind right now, right?
Whoops.
Sorry, I'm overwhelmed by this. It's absolutely beautiful. So none of this is paid for by the South African government, is that right? Everything is sponsored?
It's all private.
All privately done. It's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. Well,
Yeah.
well done.
Thank you.
Just shows what can be done when South Africans get together.
Yes.
Thank you. My bit.
Streptocarpus weren't left at the end, but we couldn't. It takes too long to give it with the cut flowers. So Streptocarpus were all given to charity, though. So So all the plants in pots, like the ferns, the Streptocarpus, and some of the softer cut flowers too, were given to charity. So. Oh, I need to go there as well.
Okay. I just want to ask you when you're going to come back and do Sterocopia talk.
Oh, he's the lady in charge. Ek gaan gou hierso hoor.
I just want to know, is it rude to ask how much did this whole thing
Oh,
cost?
sis. No, it does cost a lot of money. Unfortunately, ons rand it doesn't go far. And the most expensive part is not the flowers or the plants, although you saw some of the cost, like that arum lily, how much it is. But it is logistics, getting trucks in and out, transport. Just our flights there to London and back for our flowers, just the flight for the flowers is about 600,000 rand. So that's probably one of the most expensive things. Sorry?
How big was your team?
Our team's 11. Yeah.
How did you attach the rocks onto the face of the gorge and the flowers?
The scroof.
And the flowers?
Now the flowers, we made a little base for them, and we made little pockets, and then we also put them in, make a little nest for them, and then also just screw them tight. Yeah.
Fiberglass rocks.
Fiberglass rocks, and they also went
They
to
were very good. They were
went
very
to charity.
Yeah,
It's a
impressive.
pity I can't
Yeah.
use them again.
Yeah.
Where did 11 of you stay?
So all over the place. So wherever we find a place, usually without windows. But yeah, around, we have to be close because we work, it's long hours, we don't want to get the tube to long areas across. So we're around Battersea, Sloane Square area. Yes. So that's the other piece I want to say. I always forget. Is last year we took this stand to Stanford, right? This design. I don't know if any of you've been there.
Yes.
And this year we're doing the same thing. So it starts on the 10th of September until the 24th of September, and it will be at Stanford in Bloom. It will be in that big building on the main street, and it will be built over there. Exactly the same, but don't expect the dyes us. But it might even, I think personally, it will be a little bit better. We have more time, we've gone through the recipe, and to get nice flowers and interesting flowers now, it's close by, it would probably be better.
Is the whole story of a Chelsea Flower Show in South Africa's participation being recorded somewhere? And where do your beautiful paintings go?
Oh, and that painting that the other lady asked, the painting will be for sale, copies of it, which is signed by the team. It's right there at the entrance at the Stanford show. Yeah. And then, like I said, documentation. I don't know if you saw the CNN documentary, but I'm sure it's still online. But CNN followed us from 6 months before we started Chelsea all the way to the day of the awards. So CNN Africa, they came and followed us and did a whole double episode documentary on the whole journey. So it is online or on the CNN webpage.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous, Leon. Any more questions, ladies? Okay,
Lisa.
there we go. Shirley, what you got to say?
Who or what determines the size of your stand?
RHS predetermines the sizes that's allocated.
How much you
I
pay?
usually request the size, and then as close as possible to that they would. But we are one of the biggest stands, like I said, second biggest really in the marquee.
Well done, Leon.
And I would like to say you would probably be the most loved. Because
Does it?
nobody can not love you, Leon.
Oh, yes, it's a donkey. Donkey Perry.
So, anything else?
Oh, we have in Hermanus, because now we're building it in Stanford, and daai strand tussen Hermanus in Gansbaai, they have their own little jakkals, foxy, which occurs there, which is unique to there, and we have a mold of its little paw print, and that will be in our garden. Yeah.
So somebody's got a plaster of Paris mold. They go dot, 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 done. So that's it, guys. Nothing more to say.
2026, the design has to be in next month. So the design's already done in my head. I just need to put it to paper very quickly. And then, but we are next up to doing our next display, which is completely different to this, in Oman. And then we're going to Philadelphia, Japan, China, Singapore, and then we're back at Chelsea. Yes.
Wow. absolutely exhausting.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Well, don't you think it's absolutely marvelous that we could get him today? It was the only day available in like 6 months.
I do want to say thank you to Shelley. Do you know how tenacious she is and how determined she is? We worked on this day and night to get you here and to get this wonderful audience as well. We hope to have you back next year, and then this auditorium will be full. I'm coming. Are you guys coming for the next show? You can book your tickets today.
Okay, everybody, just to let you know, if you want coffee, good coffee from the coffee shop, that's to your account. But there should be enough cups and saucers for the tea and coffee provided by the church, paid for by us, paid for by you. And we've got some homemade rusks as well. You know, this is a giant garden club meeting, isn't it, after all? And then remember, we've got the compost is for sale as you leave, and so are the protea. So enjoy. Cheers, and thank you so much for coming.